How is it going, movie and TV fans? Welcome back to another review on the channel. Today we're looking at a personal favourite of mine that has an interesting story behind how I first watched it, and that is of course Kingsman: The Secret Service, released in 2015. And it's just one of those movies where I can always have a good time watching it, and the story behind it is that I was in science class, and it was obviously the end of the term, so we just, we watched movies from most classes. And the teacher gave us like an ultimatum. I think it was, I can't remember what the other one was, or Kingsman. Now, this is at a time where I hadn't seen the movie, so I didn't know which one to pick. But everyone in the end chose Kingsman. So we watched Kingsman, and it's just a fantastic film all around. I enjoyed watching it then, and subsequently afterwards, I ended up buying the 2 DVD collection set of Kingsman: The Secret Service and Kingsman: The Golden Circle. But I will review Golden Circle eventually on the channel when it gets put on Disney Plus in the United Kingdom, as it's currently not on there at the moment, just Secret Services, which is why I'm talking about this. Fun facts, because I'm not going to watch a DVD in 2021, it's not that fun. But the film was directed by Matthew Vaughn, who directed X-Men First Class as well, so that's a fun fact. Obviously it starts, it's got Taron Egerton, Colin Firth, Mark Strong, Samuel L. Jackson, Mark Hamill's here as well. It's got one of those casts where Michael Caine's in it too. It's one of those casts where quite a big number of names is in this movie, and that's what really makes it as fantastic as it is. I mean, I have to straight out the bat, something I really have to point out is the fight scenes are so well choreographed in this movie and so well shot as well. They feel so different to how any other fight scenes I've seen in a movie are shot before, and that's what makes them really quite good. And it definitely has its own distinct visual style, especially obviously the scenes that really come to my mind are of course the church fight and the Manus Maketh Man fight, but I think the church fight is the more, the one that is the better one to look at when it comes to looking at specific scenes in this movie. It's the church fight. There's also the scene towards the end where everyone's head gets blown up, and that's a good scene as well. That's a very interestingly fun scene, I can't lie. But it's just a movie that has fantastic action, fantastic comedy in the right places, fantastic writing as well. It's an all-round movie that has everything you want in a movie of this kind, and it's one of those movies that I would 100% class as a action comedy. Much like along the lines of The Nice Guys and stuff like that. And it really salutes itself as being a fucking fantastic movie with a class A cast and some really brilliant, performances all around from everyone. And as much as the lisp on Samuel L. Jackson can be a bit annoying at times, it doesn't take away from the fact it's a fantastic movie that everyone could sit down and watch and enjoy. For the most part, there are some moments where not everyone's going to enjoy it, but it's just one of those movies that I can sit down and have so much fun with. Like, I think it's just 100% well choreographed, well shot. The editing is fantastic in a lot of places as well. It's stitched together quite well as well. And I think, it's just a movie that has that distinct style of, stuff we don't see too much anymore, with a great villain, and obviously it's very much one of those films that's mimicking James Bond films and movies of the such, and I think that's really a fantastic thing to see from this movie, to see it, taking all these references, and instead of them just being subtle, which they're not shoved down your throat, but they're also very obvious when they happen. And I think it's almost at a level where it's borderline spoof, but also its own thing at the same time, and that's what I love the most about it. It's its own thing for most of the runtime, where there are parts where there are obviously things taken from Bond, the big old jumping out of the plane sequence, for instance, and the plot is definitely something of a Bond villain style plot, over the top, take over the world sort of plot. So that's definitely something that it takes influences from these films, but I don't think it's deliberately taking influence and nothing else. It's taking influence as an inspiration, as something that it's inspired by, in a sense, which is fantastic. There's several references to the James Bond character, or James Bond as a whole. They mentioned spy movies. They also mentioned that Eggsy's dog is called JB and Arthur, Michael Caine's character, asks does it stand for James Bond, and he says no, it stands for Jack Brewer, I think. But everyone gives fantastic performances in this movie, and it's just, as a whole, one of those movies that I can always enjoy whenever I sit down and watch. And the experience I've had watching it over and over again is fantastic. The music by Matthew Margeson and Henry Jackman is fantastic as always. Like I said, it's just an all-rounder movie that I can... It's on Disney Plus in the UK. I don't know if it's on Disney Plus anywhere else, but it's just an all-round fucking fantastic movie that, you know, I can't wait to see its prequel that's coming out soon, The Kingsman, and obviously it's got a second film, The Kingsman, The Golden Circle. So I can't wait for that. But yeah, it's just, like I said, the choreography, the fights are fantastic, and those specific two scenes that I mentioned, specifically the church fight, are just fantastically well shot, and that's what really makes this movie above and beyond most other movies that I've seen, you know. And I think Kingsman is a series that definitely is not without its flaws in several places, but I think it builds itself up with its intriguing plot, fantastically well acted villain, and sometimes over the top characters in certain elements and stuff. And it's just one of those films that is obviously heavily inspired by spy films as a whole, and obviously it coming out the same year as Spectre as well, although albeit at each end of the year. Kingsman, the Secret Service, came out in February 2015, but Spectre came out in October 2015, so by the time Spectre came out, I should imagine that this film would have been on DVD, Blu-ray, etc, etc. But it's just one of those movies, when you compare it to Spectre, oh yeah, this is definitely the superior movie in my personal opinion, and you know how I feel about Bond films, but I think, you know, it just shows how people are willing to enjoy this kind of movie nowadays, because it was very successful at the box office. It was very critically successful as well. It's just one of those sit-down, fun action movies that are just absolutely fucking brilliant to watch, and it's clear every second of film shot, people enjoyed making it, and that's, like I said, something that I personally enjoy a lot of. And the humour is there. There's some crude humour every so often, but it's not as much there as maybe I would have thought it would have been. But I think it stands as an interesting point of spy movies and how the genre evolved really from being fairly serious movies to just being parodies of themselves. You know, Austin Powers, this, a lot of these movies nowadays, there's a movie called Spy that's just a parody of spy movies. There is a sort of divide between parodies of spy movies and actual spy movies, and movies that fall into the actual spy movies category nowadays are slowly just becoming the James Bond franchise as a whole, and even that is barely stretching a spy movie at this point. I'm not saying that's a bad movie, but I'm saying it's there. I'll talk about that when I get to that. But I think this was one of the few movies to kickstart that movement again with parody spy movies. Obviously that movement was started in the 90s by Austin Powers, and then it died down towards the mid-2000s, and then by the mid-2010s, when this movie came out, that genre was just completely brought back up again, and we saw movies like this, The Nice Guys, Kingsman, The Golden Circle as well, other movies like this come out, and really just show you that, hey, we can parody shit and it's fucking funny. And that's really what makes this movie as fun as it is, to be honest with you. It's self-referential humour that's not too in your face, but also it's still there enough for you to, you know, acknowledge it, and that's really the fantastic part of it. So yeah, this has been my review of Kingsman, The Secret Service, released in 2015. Yeah, thank you so much for watching. It's been a fun movie to review. I enjoyed this movie. I'm not gonna lie, the last review I feel like is a superior review in my opinion, because it's just, well, better said, it's one of my favourite reviews on the channel. That's Free Guy. Go check that out. Highly recommend it. And yeah, cue that outro.